Recettear, an item shop's tale, is an RPG that was released in 2007 and later localized in 2010. So why am I reviewing it here at the tail end of 2023? Well, because I consider Recettear to be a solid foundation for a lot of games in this whole item shop genre, and I really wanted to replay it before playing other games in said genre. The basic premise of the game is simple. You're a young anime girl named Recette, whose father has gone missing and a bunch of loan sharks are coming to take her home. So a fairy named Tyr, who also works for the loan sharks, convinces you to convert your house into an item shop called Recettear, and you begin the journey to repay your debt. The typical gameplay loop involves you walking around town, triggering story events, buying things from shops to resell, or paying an adventurer for a dungeon to gather tons of stuff for you to sell. In addition to all that, you also man the shop as well, selling things to the customers who come in and haggling with them. Each one of these actions costs you a certain amount of time in-game, and every week of in-game time, you pay an increasing amount of money to pay off your debt. If you fail, the game loops back around to the first day, but you get to keep your items and your merchant level. Being a Japanese PC game made by an NG Jojen Soft developer, it isn't really impressive from a technical standpoint, but the concept itself is solid and makes for a nice enough experience without any unnecessary flair attached to it. None of the individual aspects of the game are particularly in-depth, but the combination of all the different simple mechanics makes for a nice overall game, in my opinion. A minor gripe I have with the game is that there's a lot of hidden statistics attached to the customers. How much they like you depends on how much you've sold them for a low price, and how much they like you determines how much money they bring, and you really have no way of knowing how much money they're actually going to have on them, or even if they're going to be able to afford anything in your shop. It's especially annoying when you get a couple loops in and you get new customers who apparently only come into your shop with like pocket change at first, so it forces you to kind of go back to selling cheap shit to these cheaper customers in order to get them to the point where they'll buy the expensive shit. During the loops, all the events you encounter around town also repeat, which is really annoying if you care at all about seeing the events. But probably the worst part of the game is the dungeons. You go in with the adventurer and fight enemies, fight bosses, gather items. But the combat, the enemies, the bosses, and even just the design of the dungeons are all pretty bad. But they're not bad enough to make me hate the whole game, because you can kind of avoid it a little bit. You do have to do some of it generally in a playthrough, but if you're really skilled at the actual buying and selling part of the game, you can really get away with not ever going to the dungeon. So overall, I give the game a 3 out of 5. I like the game. I recommend it for people who are fans of this sort of item shop genre where you're like running a shop and selling things to people. Although to be honest, it felt pretty dated back when I played it in 2010, and it'll feel even more dated now. So if you're someone who can't handle that kind of crap, then you probably won't want to touch this at all. That's about it for the review. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out my Twitch channel in the description, twitch.tv/LanceJ. And if you disagree with something I said in the video, let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested in hearing what you think.